So I am saying that what we practice in Nigeria is electoral democracy, not constitutional democracy. When we practice constitutional democracy, it's a different thing altogether. So, but in reality, or in summary, electoral democracy is a democracy that just concerns itself mainly on election and voting. That's what it is. Constitutional democracy is not the kind of democracy that the court will rule for local government autonomy, and some persons feel that it cannot be implemented. And I'm saying, therefore, that for some of us who actually shout about Nigeria is practicing democracy, Nigeria is a democratic nation. Of course, Nigeria is the democratic nation. But the kind of democracy we practice is what is called electoral democracy. It's not constitutional democracy. Our own kind of democracy only recognizes election as only looks as reduces democracy to election. And that is why for them, if you listen to NGOs, if you listen to even most of the democracy activists in this part of the world, all what they are talking about is election. All what they are talking about is election. If they talk to you, they talk about let's achieve electoral reform. Let's achieve electoral reform. Of course, electoral reform, election is very important in democracy. But a democratic practice where election is the only focus, it cannot be compared to constitutional democracy. What we need to do is that we need to understand that by the time you finish election, by the time you win an election, you transit to constitutional democracy. And if you practice constitutional democracy, even if you bring let's say, the devil or the most wicked person to run a society, that person does not have option that to do the right thing. Because already the foundation is there. You can't do anything outside the rule of law. You can't do anything outside the constitution and the constitutionalism. You operate purely on the law, the stipulations of the law. It is not your whim and caprices. But in electoral democracy, they don't run society. Like, for instance, Nigeria is not run by law. Nigeria is run by the whim and caprices of individuals who feel that this is what we want to do, irrespective of the existence of law. And that is why the third tier of government in this country, which is now the local government, is dead. And that is why, under the separation of power, judiciary and the legislature, they are just macaques. The executive called the shot. And I'm saying this only happens in electoral democracy, not in a constitutional democracy. Constitutional democracy would never allow this thing to happen. This is what I'm trying to explain to you, Bishop. Because all what we care about is election. That's why people can kill people to win election. That's why people can do all sorts of crime to win election. Because by the time you win election, automatically you start thinking, I won election, then I rule. So you don't owe anybody any responsibility. Accountability becomes zero. But in Africa, you say electoral democracy. The only thing they remember, they talk to you about is our election. And that's the same thing the ECOWAS is promoting. And that is the same thing African Union is promoting. In African Union, we have our peer review mechanism. For how long, how have they activated the peer review mechanism? How? Because the peer review mechanism in EU, it talks about leadership and governance. Who cares about peer review mechanism? The same thing about ECOWAS. ECOWAS mainly is Economic Community of West Africa states. Mainly that you're talking about the welfare and better economy of the states. How many of them actually sit down to say, look, let's just talk about governance. It's all about protect, ensure, so long as you didn't get to power through the queue, you are a fantastic leader. And I'm saying that our conversation around democracy should go beyond election. Election is cardinal. Election is cardinal, but it's just one component of democracy. That's what it is.
Is it possible to have democracy without election? Can a country practice democracy without election? And if it is possible, can you just quickly explain to us a little, sir, this morning's program?
Well, you remember that last week you asked me that question, and I remember that I provided answer.
Yes, I do.
Yes, and let me still say it on the air. It's a deeper intellectual conversation, but it's not really deep if you really want to listen and you want to open your mind to understand. Bishop, the question is yes, democracy can actually exist without election. And I argue this anywhere, any place. Democracy itself is not just about casting votes. That's not just about democracy. Democracy is about how power is distributed. I need you to listen very well. Democracy is about how power is being distributed. How rights, when I mean right, I mean the fundamental rights, what other people can call fundamental human rights. How rights are protected and how people meaningfully participate in decision making that affect their lives. Elections are one way to express the will of the people, but they are not the only way. Some societies practice democracy through councils, assemblies, or consensus building without casting a ballot. The essence of democracy is voice, accountability, and influence, not merely election day. Sorry, the greatest challenge to Nigerian democracy are political parties. Political parties are democratic institutions who do not just serve as a vote gathering association or vote gathering machine. They have the responsibility. Recruitment process in political parties are central. Who are the people that we put forward to govern the people? Are they the people who really think development, or are they the people who just join the party because they came with huge pockets? Beyond election, political socialization and political education rests fully on the legs of the political parties. Political parties' manifesto should shape state policies. And that was why in the First Republic, the leaders of the political parties in the First Republic were stronger than the state governors or the regional governors or regional mayors or perhaps the president, how do they call it now? The president. In the First Republic, people came together to contribute money to fund political parties as a collective ownership of the platform. Because the parties were so clear about their programs, about who governs them, and about the state policies. It is not what we have today that people just wake up one day, register political parties, and begin to treat those political parties as a personal or company, that the owners of the political parties are the board members who just dictate what happened, completely taking people away. So again, beyond the behaviors of the political parties, the citizens must demand accountability. There's no other way we are going to achieve this apart from citizen demand. We must demand accountability. You can't just swallow everything. We see how other people behave in other parts of the world. It is not this kind of, it doesn't concern me. Oh, 4 years, let's wait for 4 years or 8 years. Don't think. Let me say, Bishop, and I'm sorry to say this, I'm not prophet of doom. But even if Tinubu goes after 8 years, the next person that is going to come is likely going to be worse off because there are no performance indicators. And Nigerian citizens have not shown the capacity to be angry. The leaders are not afraid of the citizens. And a country or a society where the leaders are not afraid of the citizens, they can do anything. Even in a traditional institution, the leaders are afraid of their subject. There are ways you go, they come together and say, you are not going to be our leader anymore. So there is no other way to achieve constitutional democracy apart from citizen demand. You and I, we must demand that the right thing should be done. Is it the leaders or the political elite who benefit from the collapse system? Are they the ones you think they should they should come and fight for you? Or is it the men of God, sorry, the religious leaders who benefit from the collapse of the system? Are they the ones you're trying to say that they should come and help you? Because really, most of the prayer warriors we see in this part of the world is as a result of the state failure. And everybody, both the politicians and the tradition and the religious leaders, are also beneficiaries of the collapse system. They are not coming to ensure that they are being fixed. Nobody takes away what benefits him or her. So in the end, it is you and I that must demand that things must change. You see, this our docility, thinking, oh, let him continue. After all, he was not the only person who after all, Nigeria was bad before he came on board. And that's a very annoying thinking, and we can't move forward that way. We need to actually step up to say enough of this. That's the only way we can go.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Liberty, for this explaining so many things to us. I believe that you have done really well for explaining many of these concepts to us as it affects our democracy as a nation. Thank you so much, Dr. Liberty. Thank you so much. Happy New Year to you once again.
Thank you,
sir.
thank you for having me.